Okay, so this lesson today is about understanding the lower lumbar, the lumbar part of the spine, which is the lower part of the spine, and then you've got the thoracic part of the spine, and understanding the two differences and how it will affect your swing in really a lot of different ways. So a lot of questions we get from players that don't train with us and so forth, they wonder how our players keep the club, on a nice downswing plane, and they open up their body really nicely, and they don't really get jammed, stuck, and so forth. And they wonder, the questions they usually ask are, I typically come over the top and I cast the club. And that's a real popular question in general in the, I would say in the golf world, golf teaching world. And so what I'll do is I'll explain where a lot of this comes from, just from a biomechanics standpoint, and we'll eliminate some of the function of the golf swing in general, and we'll deal really just with biomechanics today and where that truly comes from. And then you have function that can trump, as we know, biomechanics, and we probably won't deal with that today. We'll go on that to another session. So the way that works is you have the lower part of your spine here. What it's really designed to do for you in your golf swing is it's designed to create stability and depth. Okay, it's designed to also create compression through the core, through the stability. So, if you will, when a player gets to the top of the swing, you'll see a lot of depth in the hips when they turn into the right side. That's lower lumbar flexibility is going to do that. You'll also see when they get to the top of the swing, there's some crunching in through there, and that the lumbar has the crunching being into the core, compression. Okay, and it's not a we call superficial. It's not something you force compression. It's not forced contractions through the core. The contractions come through how you torque your muscles up properly. If you're having to go up to the top of your swing and you're having to engage your quadriceps and your glutes and all this and really try to fire them or whatever they call it, and contract your core and all that, it's really because you don't understand posture. I won't have all the time in this video to go over how to really get compression through the core and stability through the core through your anatomical posture. But what I will have time today is to cover why you typically, hopefully, understand where the swing starts to break down, and you'll see the over the top and the casting and so forth. So as we talk lower lumbar, we're dealing with, if you will, stability through the depth of the swing this way, right? And then thoracic, you're dealing with the rotation. We know we have rotation through the shoulders, chest, and all that. But where it's missed is in thoracic quality, thoracic mobility, right? So what I mean by that, so if I'm just doing an exercise in the gym where we'll do postural exercises where we push the pelvis in, compress through the core like this, and then we'll rotate thoracic. If you look here, I've got rotation of the body, but if I had a club, it would not be over the plane because the quality of rotation is coming through the middle of the spine. What happens is, for a player that struggles with this in the downswing, so when they're here, they will use, we talk about it, we look at it from a hip standpoint, but what they'll do is they'll pull this lower lumbar spine up high and out towards the ball. So what will happen is they're using what we call lower lumbar manipulation and force like this. And so what happens is that breaks down the quality of the thoracic rotation. As soon as you do this, you start to push the hip out, but you're also rotating the lumbar like this. What will happen is the hands will force themselves outward, okay? And the head will force itself away. And it'll also typically, you'll see a right hand casting release to try to get rid of it, because what happens is the flow in the golf swing, we call it chi flow, which means that the club's got this nice flow to it. It's impaired. It gets blocked through the body. So as it gets blocked through the body, what will happen is it will force itself away, and it typically casts to get rid of that energy because it knows subconsciously that it's made a big mistake, right? And so the correction for that, and then you'll see with better players, what will happen is they try to get to the ball, try to get up to the ball, and they try to cover it. Really high-level players, they have no problem. They have good quality of rotation, and all of a sudden they'll use the left side of the lumbar to try to spin right at the last second. That'll collapse. They're still on top of the ball, so they look good here, but that's just enough to either get a high outward handle or a down and inward handle at the last second. That could be right here. And as soon as they take that spine and twist, same thing happens. It just happens closer to the ball. Typically, it's a better player when they're trying to work on. I see this a lot when players are trying to learn how to swing left That's very popular in today's world, and it can be very dangerous for certain players if you don't understand how to do it properly. If you're trying to force that with the hip in this way, you're going to do it probably because you're a high-level player, and you'll, one, hurt the left side of your spine doing it. You'll start to hurt, potentially hurt your, the SI joint. You'll potentially hurt the neck muscles as well. So what will happen is you're doing this, you'll start to tense up to try to hold square the face, because the face is going to be trying to rotate, and a good player, great player, knows that. So they will start to try to lift all this up and tighten all the upper body up, and that can cause some neck issues as well. So what's the correct way to do this? Well, the correct way is to understand the function of both. So if you have, when you go to your backswing and we load up into our hips and we create that nice torque we talk about, in the backswing, we've got the depth in the hips. We don't have to spin out of that. We don't want to. If we use our thoracic rotation, now it's not thoracic pulling, but if we use our thoracic, our rotation here, what will happen is you'll see that as we're working our body into a circle, the club's going to be behind that, and then it will square up, and then the body's very neutral as it's going through. And so you'll see here, again, if I was just had the club here, we have a split hand grip. If I go with the lumbar with the right pulling out like this, you're going to see problems. If I tilt like that, you would see a drop. If I unwind, if I'm stable through my lower body here and I keep the depth here, and I truly unwind through the thoracic, and not force, but gently, you'll see the club comes in behind, and then it comes through. And it will not get over the plane. So what a lot of times we'll see is players and teachers working on people trying to go like this. But the problem is, when you try to do this fake loop like that, what's happening, the club knows you're trying to superficially manufacture something that should never happen. There's no really body that plays at a high level that goes to the first tee and consciously goes like this. You may see players that have some of that in their swing, but that's not what they're working on. Okay? So what happens is they do this superficial arm movement, they'll get it up here, and then they'll do all this stuff like that, but their hip biomechanically still fires the same way, so it just does the same exact thing. Problem is now you're working on the wrong thing with your arms, plus you still have the other problem. So now you created two problems. So that's where a lot of players will start to really regress and go backwards. What we suggest you do is, if you refer to our attacking with the right shoulder video, what you'll see is, when I demonstrate that, is if you watch, it's not attacking. What we see a lot of times with people will try that, they'll try to attack with their head. So they go like this, or they go out with their head this way. If you watch, my head stability, because my lower lumbar is so stable and I circle through my lower body, the rotation's coming through this part of my body. And it's not forced rotation. It's gently. So if you can think, as you're going here, it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, unwinding, instead of 1, fast and pulling. What will happen is this is a function. If you look at the stability versus, now look at the stability. You can see, and if that's at high speed, it looks just like that. But this is, the quality of the rotation is coming through here. The stability is in here, and it's also in the core. Okay, it's when you start to use the core as a rotational muscle. So you try to use the core, and you're going to try to rotate. You will push that lumbar out. The hip will definitely fire outward. The hands will go outward. Okay, if you try to leave the hips alone, you'll look like this in your golf swing. You'll be stuck. It's probably a better way to put Band-Aids on it. But it's an arm swing. So when we see players cross over from being over the top to getting the club correctly, what we typically see is players just try to hang back and flip it like they just create another problem. It's no good. You're not going to play consistent golf. The way we like to see it is, as you get here, you would start to learn how to use your core and your hips and engage in through the glutes and through the hips and through the core, so your lumbar has stability here. So the stability means in that lumbar, when it starts to rotate, you have a good chance of getting injured. If it's stable and it's allowing the big muscles through the thoracic to gradually unwind, just think of like a hammer throw coming in behind. The hammer's coming in from behind, but it's rotating and then everything functions. You'll see the hips, you'll see it through impact. I have plenty of depth and hip rotation through here. But where people try to get, what they try to do is they'll go to the top of the swing and they try to get their hips into that position. The club's way behind them, way up here. They're way stuck back here, and then they have all this room that they will flip it. So if you look at how we do it, as we circle, we truly work through the thoracic. Everything is in time. So when we go to unleash on it, everything is in sequence. But you have to understand the stability, the difference between the lower lumbar part of the spine and the thoracic part of the spine. Thoracic part of the spine is going to be right in here. Lower lumbar is going to be down below that. They are totally different. Everything you do as far as fitness should be based around thoracic mobility, fascia release through the thoracic part of the body, the glutes, and then the core. Okay, that you should be. If you are a golfer, if you're in any type of throwing or rotational sports, all I can tell you, kicking, throwing, hitting, all I can tell you is glutes, core, thoracic mobility. If you do that, you will learn to be your biomechanically, you'll be very efficient. And then it's just which will definitely improve function of the sport. That means it's the skill, how you swing the club. But then if you have somebody helping you, you'll be able to do more things that they're asking you to do. But what we see is people have poor quality of posture, so they stand over the ball like this, and we have people asking them to really turn and torque up like they're supposed to and all that, and they can't do it. They have severe pains because of this, typically in the neck and in the lower. What happens is that over time, the hips will shift forward and under like this. The top part of the spine will roll forward. So you got this out front, this goes down, and you'll see this posture. Okay? And you can play around that. There's players that do, but you see very few. And if you look at the modern game, you know, you're seeing more players where their angle of their body is strong, pushing this way, and they have resistance in the back, but they have a strong angle forward towards the ball. Not like this, I mean, but they have a downward motion this way. They have a lot of resistance in the back. So then that allowed the side rotation, the side-to-side movement, to be a much higher quality. So when you're doing exercises, I'll give you a couple here we'll go over. What I want you to do is stand just straight up, just like this right here. Push your hands not out forward, not way back. Just right out here, just like this right here. Now, because my head's going to be forward, one, because I'm looking down at you and I'm having a look. But if you watch my pelvis, my shoulders are back. They're not rolled over. They're not. And this is no go because see, my hips are too far forward. I want this and this in alignment, as you see here, hands forward. And from here, I don't want a lot of knee flex. I just want my knees flexed to the tongue of my shoe. So just basically right there, just not to the balls of the feet. I don't want a lot of squat. Just like this, standing straight up, the hips correct. Crunch the core just a little bit like this. What I mean crunch is just push the pelvis, as you get the depth, push it forward. Pull your shoulders back a little bit like this. And then what I want you to do is I want you to bend forward. Okay? And when you bend forward, you're going to probably try to push out or you're going to collapse over. I want you to keep the same posture back. Push your pelvis under so you can feel that engagement just like this right here. And from there, what I want you to do is we're going to get in like a wide receiver stance like this. So if you can see, like you just picture like you're going to run a route. If you know anything about football, if you don't, go video. But it would look just like this, okay? And you still keep your posture like that. And then from here, now if your foot's too close, you'll feel like you're on the outside of your foot this way. If your foot's too wide out this way, if it's too far back, you'll feel like you can't get. So it's just like the wide receiver stance like this, okay? And then from here, you're not going to allow. Once you're in that stance, do not allow this knee to rotate. Do not allow that hip to rotate. And you're just going to turn just like this. Now you're tilting down, just like in golf rotation, just like this. So when you get here, you can see I'm resisting my hips and keeping that posture. So I'm here, both feet I'm resisting. I've got my posture, I turn. Do not allow those hips to move. What will happen is that will allow you to create good thoracic mobility. Let the shoulders down and relaxed. Keep the pelvis forward. Watch my pelvis here. I don't want it drifting way back. I don't want it way under. I want it just like here. Shoulders back. Turn against it. You'll feel this side really will be limited because it's the front leg. Don't allow that back hip to cross over. You're not trying to get, so if you're doing it like this, what's happening is you're using, like again, you're trying to use your lumbar for mobility, and it's not designed for that. So you're not getting true flexibility. Switch and do the other side the same exact way. But watch how I do that, and what will happen is, then you can take it, go lower. Drop that back foot back. Don't let the knee go out forward. Keep it right on the tongue of the shoe. Get this back. And then you'll start to really feel yourself getting a lot of compression into the core of the body. And then you turn, and that'll increase mobility. And then when you come out of that, if you do, let's say you do 5 sets of 10 on each leg, when you make your next golf swing, they're going to feel like it's a whole different golf swing for 99% of you. Even a high-level pro, if they don't do these exercises, just doing a thoracic mobility set and a glute activation set. So glute activation is because we're tilted. So when I go forward like this, if I just did a traditional lunge or whatever, I'm really just activating the quadricep here, see? But when I go and I train just more into a wide receiver stance like this, that's a kind of a traditional modern biomechanics lunge. So when I do this and keep the pelvis tucked under, now I'm really getting a lot of golf function out of that, but I'm activating this side of my body, because if you look at what's happening, you can see it. Now if I flex the knee too much out here, then what happens is it becomes more, and I stand up, it becomes more of a quadricep. I want to get that glute from here, and then the thoracic rotation, it's really literally it. And in thoracic rotation, do not give up stability in that leg, and then we'll pop up. Then you would just pop back down and just practicing. Looks like a piece of cake. When you're working on those kind of postures, when you have the core engaged the entire time through proper posture and you get the alignments perfect, it will take it out of you. I don't care how good a shape you're in. So you'll see it when you do this. If you really kind of watch the video and go back and through that, it will really help your golf swing, but it'll certainly start to change your mind as far as how you're doing some of your exercises or not. So kind of last thing, we'll go over this one more time and then we'll be done, which is, remember, people talk about trying to open the hips through the ball. What they do when they do that is they use this lower lumbar because most people aren't high-level rotational athletes. That's why when you see on the football field, I hope this explains it better. When I say this is, how many quarterbacks do you have on a team, and how many wide receiver or field goal kickers do you have on your team, on a football team? And when I bring that up to players, they typically light goes off. Oh, I get it. Like if you ask the whole football team to kick a football from 30 yards, you would not, in American football, you would not have very many players that can do that because it's a rotational hitting sport, right? It's kicking, hitting, same thing. Same thing throwing a football. You're dealing with a lot of rotation. It's not brute force. It's about being able to rotate through the thoracic part of the spine, whipping energy, and then controlling the core. So it's a full body, it's a true full body movement, it's an art, and that's why you don't see a lot of them do that. Same thing in golf. So when you see 100 golfers that go out there, that's why you see 4 or 5 of them that can only do it out of 100. The rest of them have to learn the skills to do it. And so I know this is really advanced lesson today, but I know that if you're an instructor watching this, I know we have a lot of instructors that watch what we're doing, and I know we have we have a big audience now that's really growing through YouTube that's really wanting to learn. It may be a little over your head with this, but just listen to what I'm saying. You might have to do a little research on your own, but it's thoracic mobility against lumbar stability. I'm telling you, if you have that and you have good glute, if you have good glute strength and you're developing your glutes and you're strengthening up the core of your body, your arms are going to swing so much better around your body versus up and chopping and all this. When we have injuries in the lower lumbar part of the spine or in the thoracic part of the spine and we don't take care of them, we don't get our mobility back, we call those chi blocks. So what will happen is you'll see players, when they get in their downswing, they'll lose the stability, they'll stand up because of 1, the pain, okay? 2 could be the mobility, 3 could be the function. That's just what they do. The same thing happens in this. But you want to make sure you have really good range of motion in the pelvic tilt, okay? You want to make sure you got good strong core, good strong glutes, and a lot of quality through the thoracic rotation. And again, thoracic rotation looks, if you can picture like this, picture a hammer throw coming from back here like in a golf swing. Everything is unraveling. It's not how force this way. It's using momentum of the club and the body together, and that's how that would work. If we got up here to think this is a ball and chain and you're getting ready to launch it, and you went like this, and you're trying to launch it that way, it would not be good. If I went stiffened up and went this way and tried to launch the ball and chain, no go. But if I let this work around me and my body's working in a circle and I'm truly working through my thoracic, what happens is then all of a sudden my hips work properly, my chest and shoulders and back are working properly, my center's good, and then my momentum is perfect through the release point, and that's what we're trying to do in the golf swing. So again, I know this was a long video, but I hope you enjoyed it, and if you study this, go back and forth over it. I know if you pay attention and take notes and start working on this, you will get better. There's no doubt about it.